Water. Earth. Fire. Air.
And now you guys get quiet. Way to get shy.
He's ready to celebrate. Celebrate. Lobsters.
I'm not gonna lie, you made a real mistake by giving us all these toys.
I still want to go back to the mode of together. That's the best thing.
The mode of together.
Yeah.
The mode of together.
It's awesome. I like that we all have little chairs and spots to sit.
I think. Well, you can do that if you want to.
But now I'm a cat.
Because it's only going to give us a grid view anyway.
Wait. I don't think you get the icons in together mode. Oh, yeah. I don't see them. The clapping hands and stuff like that. Oh,
yeah.
Look at those. Interesting.
Oh.
But I don't
And blowjob face.
I was going to show him my face.
Oh, you know what I'm saying. I don't like this.
Thank you, Krillin.
This episode's just about us fucking with Skype. All right. Shall we try and at least get half an episode done tonight?
Sure. Sounds good. Okay. You're talking Avatar. I kind of, like I said, I built up sort of a script. We can just start off with.
Yeah.
Do we want to go over just the episodes right off the bat? Do we want to give a little intro into the show itself? Yeah, sure.
I would say, I feel like if you are listening to this podcast, you probably know what Avatar the Last Airbender is. Probably only
Let's
through the
not
movie.
assume. What if we have some? Oh, God damn you.
So the movie is about M. Night Shyamalan ruining a property for 10 years and literally taking almost the end of civilization as we know it to bring it back.
I don't even understand why they gave him the property, knowing his history. It's like there's no twist in Avatar.
Well, no, the critics are. I don't know what's going on with me and the critics in the United States. I got to tell you, something's going on.
They just don't get you.
They've never got me, and it's getting worse. They're like, it's almost like, go away.
He was the hot director at the time.
Yeah, it's just about
based on his twist. Though. Like he wasn't known for action. He wasn't known for.
But he was a fan of
this.
He was a fan of the series, and so he wanted to champion it and be like, no, this should be a movie for another generation. Which I don't know. I'm like, at the time, I'm like, it's not that old. It can be for this generation too. They can just watch the. It's like, I don't know what he's like. What am I going to bring to it? I'll make the Fire Nation Indian, and that's
he made
kind
practically
of
everyone Indian.
Yeah, and that was. Which, I mean, it's a fair thing to bring in some diversity, but then you also make Sokka and Aang pretty whitewashed. So, I'm sorry, Sokka and Katara.
Wait a minute, this movie's about white people?
Yeah.
And it's Ong. Thank you.
Yes, it's Ong. I forgot about that. It's Ong. Good heavens.
Which to me is really, so his last real hit, if you want to argue that The Village was a hit, was in 2004. Airbender came out in 2010.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you guys said he was the new hotness. I was like,
So I bet
The Sixth Sense came out when?
2000. No, 99.
Unbreakable. I would argue.
Is,
the thing is,
so yeah, he's at least a good 6 years removed from when he was actually decent.
That's fair, but it's also a matter of he still had a certain amount of clout, so he's able to be like, hey guys, I want to bring this out. And at the time, Mike and Brian, the creators of Last Airbender, were like, yeah, let's do this. They were on board to do it, so they were like,
were they really on board with him to do it?
Initially, yeah, and then they saw what he was doing and eventually left the project.
Okay.
Oh, we're gonna go. We're gonna be on.
I feel like they do that a lot though. They're like, oh wait, hold a second. Yeah, we're gonna leave.
A
Did
lot
they do
is
it
in
Netflix too?
They did that with Netflix too, but then again, does that mean that Netflix was just trying to take it in a direction that they weren't exactly keen on?
Yeah,
So,
I mean, from all reports, that's what it seems like.
Yeah.
But they also walked from Nickelodeon as well, right?
Yeah, but actually, technically, I guess they're actually back with Nickelodeon. They recently announced that they're going back for a third series.
Well, I think they have some kind of like long-standing contract where they can like build out the universe and however they see fit and for however long they want or something like that.
Certainly possible.
But I mean, for those who the uninitiated, do you guys want to kind of give a brief overview of Avatar? Just
No,
quickly?
I'm good.
Pat?
Not particularly, but I can give it a shot.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. This is awesome.
I don't even
Assholes.
know how to describe the show coherently. Is the problem?
I mean, you can give it a sum up of what it is and what the characters are.
Geriatric man fights colonialism with magic powers.
But he's not geriatric.
Technically, he's over 100 years old.
Yeah, but isn't geriatric mostly a state of physical being?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just know he's old.
But he's not. That's what I'm saying. He's not old.
He's over 100 years old.
No, he was frozen in time. There's a difference. He's still.
He wasn't frozen in time. He was just frozen.
Something.
Yeah, he's still 100 years old. Like they mentioned that in the show. Like he'd look like this now. That's why in the beginning Zuko's looking for an old man. I mean,
but my point is that he hasn't aged 100 years though.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. So okay. So here's a question. Ripley. She's like some 40, 50, 60 years old because she was in cryosleep for all that time. Her daughter, who wasn't in cryosleep, who stayed on Earth at one point, then she outlived her daughter because of stuff. So she is that old. Like she was born this year, and then so you're
because I think my semantic argument is that time has passed correctly.
Yes.
The physical being hasn't though.
I mean,
her physical body hasn't aged 100 years.
So you're saying that
Ripley's still 30 something, well, I guess by the time all the series is over, she's like 40 something, but she's still a 40-year-old woman.
I think that if you
even though 100 years have passed,
if you take a cup and you put it in the cupboard and then you come back to it 50 years later, it's still a 50-year-old cup. Even if nothing happened to it, it's still pristine. It's almost brand new, but it hasn't been touched in 50 years. It's still a 50-year-old cup. It's just now it's still pristine and still fantastic. I don't know. Like
how old is Captain America? Because Kareem, you've made a lot of jokes about him being old as shit too. So this goes against that argument.
Well, no, Captain America
was frozen just like Ant.
That's what I'm saying. When the Marvel universe starts with him, or the Avengers universe starts essentially, he's 30 years old, I guess. When we get to Endgame,
he's what? No, because he's just old enough to kind of join for the military when he gets he's boosted.
Early 20s.
Yeah, I'd say maybe even like 18, 19, because he was ready to join.
My question is, how old is he?
True.
When he's in Avengers,
according to your math, he's like
21, 22.
21, 22.
Okay, and by Endgame, how old is he?
By what part of Endgame?
Okay, no, Infinity Wars. How old is he?
Wait, 28, 29?
Okay, so he's still the youngest out of all the Avengers, right?
No, because he was born in 19. He's again.
But he didn't live. He didn't live that 60 years though.
I'd say by my definition and by that of Pat, he is some 100, 70 years old. Whereas as well as Bucky, who was in and out of cryosleep. So
okay, Bucky's different though, because Bucky actually aged and lived throughout those years though. And but Bucky's technically still older.
He didn't through all those years.
But is Bucky older than Bucky older than Captain America because he keeps coming out of cryosleep? Is what I'm asking.
So no, because they're born around the same age. Yeah, you're the one making that argument.
That's your argument. Our argument is this: no, they're both 100 or like 80 or whatever it is.
Okay, so if you were to put 180-year-old next to Captain America, they would be the exact same person. Physically,
no, that's not how.
That's my argument.
That's not how time and space work.
That's my whole point. Is that if you put a regular 80-year-old next to Captain America, they won't look the same.
What if it's Jack LaLanne?
They wouldn't look the same. But okay, so in season 1, you have him meet up with his old friend Boomy, and he's like, "Boomy, my old friend." And they meet up and they share memories of a time where they spent as kids running around doing things. And Boomy is much older physically,
doesn't Boomy fill him in on the 100 years that he missed?
So you're saying whoever I point to, that's the person I get to fight?
Choose wisely.
I choose you.
Wrong choice.
So
then
that's what I'm saying. They're not the same age. There's a whole 100 years of life that
wait.
Aang
So
hasn't lived.
if I fill you in on the stuff that happened to me, does that then age you further, Kareem?
No, if
Right, exactly. So it doesn't
that's
like just
my point is
just
it doesn't age you.
providing
That's what I'm saying.
information
I'm not.
doesn't age someone and doesn't. He's still the same. Like again, you're trying to have us convince you of your argument. Like
No,
you
I'm
already
not.
believe your argument.
I'm
I don't.
trying to. I'm poorly explaining that time stops physically for Aang.
Okay, so funny enough, I'm actually reading a sci-fi book called Hyperion right now, where they really actually do reference this, and basically they have two ways to count it. There is kind of the standard year, how many years you have existed, and then your age based on if you were in cryosleep because you were frozen. I think that's the only way we're going to be able to move on is we just agree that we can count it two different ways.
So wait, but that
Okay.
doesn't. We don't also. You didn't answer the question of is he geriatric? That was the question. That's where we got here.
I didn't even look up the definition of geriatric to be safe, guys. I tried to make a joke and look what it led to. So,
Well, yeah.
I was going to say also you asked us to give you a rundown of what the series it would be called is if you described it. I would say something along the lines of
Long ago, the four nations lived together in
Then
harmony.
everything changed. When the Fire
Then
Nation
everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
Continue.
that's it.
Keep going.
That's
Keep
it.
going, smartass.
Oh, it's fine. I thought you were
So-
dropping an awesome clip of just like
No,
Why?
I want you.
Why?
I want
No.
you to finish it.
okay,
And then shit gets crazy.
it gets crazy.
All right.
I mean,
so
it's-
for anybody who's never watched it, you're still as confused as ever. That's
It
awesome.
is. I mean, I'm not good at describing things. I would describe in terms of themes. It is a redemption story to me in a lot of ways for multiple characters throughout. Yeah, actually, that's probably my number one theme in all of it is redemption.
Okay.
And the coming of age and
Yeah,
learning what one's responsibilities are.
yeah, it's about a group of friends taking on a colonial power, and defeating it. Does that work?
Yeah, living
I think
together and figuring out what happens when things stop being fake and start being real.
Yeah,
I hate you guys so much.
we're
Let's
not
move
good
on.
at this.
Just move on.
Or
Do it
break
live,
down.
damn it.
Hold on.
Do it live.
Hold on.
I'll write it and we'll do it
Are you
live.
taking us somewhere else together?
Did you find geriatric?
A century ago, the young Avatar Aang, afraid of his new responsibilities, fled from his home and was forced into the ocean by a storm. He encased himself in suspended animation in an iceberg near the South Pole. Shortly after, Fire Lord Sozin, the ruler of the Fire Nation, launched a world war to expand his nation's empire. Knowing that the Avatar must be an air nomad, he carried out a genocide against the air nomads with the help of a comet enhancing Firebender's powers. 100 years later, Katara and Sokka, teenagers of the Southern Water Tribe, accidentally discover Aang and revive him. Thanks, Wikipedia.
Beautiful. Thank you.
But I believe Aang can save the world.
No, you had your chance. You shut up now.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man.
Which I guess it rolls us right into book one, which is water, I guess. Yeah. And I kind of like the way that they did the show as far as that's the delineation between like the books and the powers and what he kind of needs to learn and know, which kind of makes it interesting. I mean, we'll just kind of gloss over Legend of Korra where they, don't necessarily have to do that.
Yeah.
And you only get the 3 books because he already sort of, I guess, mastered one.
Well, he was already an airbender.
Yeah,
So-
he'd already, for the most part, mastered airbending between his knowledge and training, and then also with the pre-existing
Avatar suit?
knowledge. Yeah, the pre-existing knowledge that kind of filled him in on some stuff. He kind of had already mastered airbending to a degree, I think. He still
Yeah, I
learns
mean, he
certain
still learns
aspects.
stuff.
Yeah, because there's still like the more spiritual side that he taps into throughout that throughout the whole series.
And how old are we? Is Aang supposed to be?
107.
He's like
He's like
technically
10,
in the
right?
body of like 10 or 11-year-old,
10,
right?
11, yeah. I
Plus
guess I asked the wrong question.
Yeah, that was a mistake on your part.
What does he physically look like, age-wise?
I try not to do that
Shut
kind
up,
of thing.
kid.
Creeper.
Uh,
Well, Katara's what, 13?
Something like that, right?
13, 14. So he's like 12, maybe.
Like, okay. All right. And that makes
Wait a minute.
Sokka like 14 or something, maybe.
Yeah, because isn't he the younger?
I think Sokka's the older one, isn't he?
Sokka is the older brother, I believe. Now you have me questioning it. This is good.
I'm going
This
by
is good
maturity,
podcasting, folks.
so-
The silence while we search things online.
Yes, we're doing well.
Don't worry, we're just
I feel
tossing
like we're
clips
out of
here and there.
practice, guys. This is a
Yeah.
We're not here. We're gonna do it live. So
Do it live.
Fucking thing
well,
sucks.
yes, he's like a tween, basically.
Okay.
We'll just
But
call him
either
a
way,
tween.
we're dealing with kids, which is, kind of
Yeah.
where I was leading into as far as like book one and kind of where the show starts off. And then over the entire course, we start to see obviously their maturity, plus the maturity of the writers, plus the maturity of the subject matter. It's a really great evolution, I think, and one of note for not just this show, but animation in general, where you get to see, a progress and not normally seen in animations where it's, they kind of are stillborn or captured in a moment and just kind of repeat it over and over. For a lot of cartoons, they just kind of march episodes continuously. Like we talked about the X-Men, you don't really see the X-Men age over the course of the show, and there's only a few episodes where they kind of recall, things that happened to them in the past, but each episode seems to just be kind of like, oh, this is a new thing, and the audience is kind of given like, oh, we'll just start over again. Whereas this show, yeah, go ahead, Ken or Pat.
Oh, I was going to say one of the I think the best things about the show is you can tell they came in with at least the idea of a plan and an actual endpoint, but not such a nebulous endpoint that they could keep like extending. Like, well, we need to add 7 more seasons. Okay, well, like they definitely had. We can go about this much. We've got the plot and there's some bottle episodes here and there, but it's more character development even in those bottle episodes, and they have like a real plan that they can stick to.
Well, yeah, and I think again that was evident by just them naming them after the books, because again, there were only so many elements that he could learn.
I mean, yes and no, because then they do. If you take into account the core stuff, it does start with air because she needs to learn air, but then it also does spirit and balance. So they were able to find ways to continue on the book formatting and still keep the theming on track too.
Yeah, you're right. Very true. We kind of picked out just to kind of have a discussion some of our favorite episodes, and I don't know, and we picked out some from each book. Do you guys want to kind of go over at least your favorite episodes from book one, which is Water?
Yeah, I mean, Pat, do you want to start us out?
All right. The first episode I chose to discuss is the Jet episode called Jet. Fuck Jet. Jet sucks.
I think that's going to be the name of this episode.
Trash. I'm going to read the synopsis real quick for those of you that may not remember what episode is. This is episode 10 of season 1.
Yes, I would.
Jet, why?
Katara, you would too if you just stopped to think. Think about what the Fire Nation did to your mother. We can't let them do that to anyone else ever again.
Traveling by foot, Team Avatar accidentally stumbles into a Fire Nation camp. The soldiers immediately surround them, though the team is saved by Jet and his freedom fighters and invited back to their treetop hideout. There, the team learns about the orphans living in the woods and fighting the Fire Nation soldiers who dare to set foot in the forest. So I feel like there's a big theme in this particular episode about how it's not always so clean, good guys and bad guys. And I think that's something that's carried over through the entire show. The Fire Nation is obviously the big bad, but some of Jet and his freedom fighters practices take on some of those colonial tendencies, let's say. I may not be using the correct terminology here, in which case I apologize. And Dixon, you can tell me to piss off. But
yeah, white guy using colonial. That's never going to go wrong.
But it's taking on the aspects of the oppressor in this scenario, and also Jet just kind of sucks. He's kind of a
Well,
liar.
Pat and I
I don't like
had a
him. I don't like his
conversation
face.
off mic about Jet being the Robin of this universe,
Yes.
Like Robin Sparkles from How I Met Your Mother, or
just like her.
Having fun is what it's all about.
okay.
Yep.
No, Batman and Robin. First, I thought he was more Batman-esque, but we realized he was poor, so he becomes the Robin.
Yeah.
I don't. I literally have a Nightwing logo on my hat here, so I'm definitely gonna have to question. Like, I don't see how he's
Dead parents vigilante fighter.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not. I mean, if you're saying Robin Hood, but like a dark version, I'd give you that. But Robin is the lighter one of the. I mean, he's Jason Todd, if you want to say that, but he's not necessarily Robin. Whereas Robin, who's been played by numerous characters, is predominantly lighthearted and is there to balance out the grim and gritty Batman. So if you were to say he's Jason Todd, I'd give you that. But
That would be
he
the
hasn't killed-
Robin
He hasn't
I-
killed anybody.
he doesn't care. No, he doesn't care if he
Yet.
does though. He tried to. He
Yeah.
tried to kill people. In fact, and he was okay with what he called collaborators, them dying too. So he's okay with death. He's okay with taking lives. So Jet is,
Yeah.
if you like I said, if you want to call him Red Hood, I'm with you there.
I mean,
But
But Red Hood
Jay-
actually kills people.
Oh,
Jason Todd
Jet
Robin.
is willing to as well. Like just
Yeah.
Willing to and actually doing are two different things.
He was, but the only thing that stopped him was Team Avatar. He was
Yeah.
gonna kill him. It
It was-
wasn't like
you-
he had a change
yeah.
of heart.
the only thing that stopped him was Sokka.
Yeah.
So like he attempted murder. He would be arrested on attempted murder. He attempted to murder.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Now he did attempt to murder an entire city or village,
Village,
which has more of a white collar crime, so he probably just gets fined.
Yeah, I mean, the worse
Don't
the
see if
murder,
he
the
faces
worse,
any
the worse the
prison time.
crime, the less time you do.
Yeah. All right. Ken, you want to do your first?
Yeah, if I'm going for me, I'll jump over here. So I guess my first sorry about that. My first memorable episode of Airbender Book 1 would be The Warriors of Kyoshi.
Show yourselves, cowards! Who are you? Where are the men who ambushed us?
There were no men. We ambushed you. Now tell us, who are you and what are you doing here?
Wait a second, there's no way a bunch of girls took us down.
A bunch of girls, huh? The Unagi's gonna eat well tonight. No, don't hurt him. He didn't mean it. My brother's just an idiot sometimes.
Right off the bat, I mean, we got an idea of who Sokka was and how he felt about the world. He's kind of a chauvinist and had his views. And then very early on, they're like, no, we're going to challenge that. You're going to meet the Warriors of Kyoshi and see how they see their role in the world and what they're going to how they're going to move forward within their own village. But then also we see how that progresses throughout the series. Episode 4 of season 1, I can give the first short summary. You have, as Aang and his friends begin crossing the expansive Earth Kingdom, they are captured by the female warriors of Kyoshi. Sokka is trained by the Kyoshi warriors, while Aang lets the villagers' reverence go to his head. Zuko finds out that Aang is on Kyoshi Island. He attacks the village, and Aang and his friends escape on Appa.
Yeah, no, I thought that was a good episode too. Like you said, it just kind of right off the bat in the show, you get to address gender norms essentially, and you also start to they complete some of the build out of the story. I think what the show does really well as far as exposition is kind of they drop in pieces of like, this is much bigger than just the three characters you're seeing at the moment on the screen, and it kind of lends into what I picked as far as my choice as well, because it took me a second to kind of get into the world, because they played a real childlike, at least the first 2 episodes, in my opinion. So when I was like brought this show and someone was like, hey, you should watch this, I was like, I don't know if I'm really going to get into this. I'm 20 plus years old, and this seems like a really, really kid-like show. And
I'm a man. I don't watch cartoons.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, that was just like Sokka, like it was that, idea of what I should be doing, and, things like that, and kind of put in my head. When I saw in mind, I chose episode 3, which is the Southern Air Temple. So like I said, it didn't take too long, but the first 2 episodes, if you're just watching the show and you start hearing about all this like legendary stuff from the show and all of like the fight choreography and all of the more mature things that happen later on the show, when you get the first 2 episodes, you're like, these are very different shows, at least right off the bat. But when I get to book 3, which is where they finally get to the Southern Air Temple, that's where I was like, oh, this show has the potential to be really, really good because it effectively deals with death, which is early on, but in a way that isn't too mature for certain ages, but does acknowledge it in a very realistic way. And there's this kind of the summary from mine is while journeying to the North Pole, Aang, Ong, Saga, and Katara explore Ong's former home, the Southern Air Temple. Ong learns that his people, what?
Please don't. Please stop
His,
that.
his people's genocide at the hands of the Fire Nation. His anger triggers the Avatar state, which is the second time we've seen that in the first 3 episodes, which in turn alerts the world that the Avatar's return. Meanwhile, Zuko and his uncle Iroh have their ship repaired at the Fire Nation port, commanded by a rival, and we also get
Firebenders? They were here? Gyatso.
Hey, Aang, you find my dinner yet? Aang, I wasn't really gonna eat the lemur, okay? Oh, man. Come on, Aang. Everything will be all right. Let's get out of here.
Commander Zhao, I think is how you say it. Zhao. And you have to start to see how they deal with politics as a power versus actual power, because the first couple episodes you see the Avatar and Qatar kind of using their physical power, and you're like, oh, that's what this world is established. But the commander actually comes in and is very low voice. He he just does a lot of talking, which is more intimidating than just seeing what Aang can physically do as far as his airbending. So those are one of the things I found in that episode to be really enticing as far as continue to watch the show. Like there's a lot going on here, and the writers did a great job in addressing that, I think.
So episode 3 is really the one where you realize, because you're right, it's a kid's show, especially that first season, but episode 3 is where you kind of have the realization, oh, they're not gonna shy away from kind of harder topics, though. They're going to present them in a way that children should be able to understand, but they're not gonna dumb it down to the point to where it's meaningless for kids. If like you said, with death, like they don't treat it as a joke, and they don't treat it like, oh, and they're all back. Like he has to deal with the emotional toll of that, the decisions that he's made, and how he's going to move forward. But like you said, in such a way that a younger kid could understand what is happening.
Yeah. And the episode isn't like super depressing. I mean, that section where he sees the tomb, essentially, that is very like gut wrenching, but I mean there's still levity throughout the show, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. And then that is also a similar story to that. I was introducing Dixon to the show as well, and at the time I'm like, well, start from the beginning because that's where you start, and it just didn't take hold for me. He's like, nah, I'm good. But then maybe upwards to a year later, his daughter was watching an episode that we'll get to later on, Sokka's Master, and he's like, wait, what show is this? This is really like, he really dug on that. And so it's like he went back and said, okay, let me see what this is. And he's like, oh no, he didn't give it the chance. He kind of dove into it more. He's like, okay, this is really good. And he borrowed my DVDs and stuff. So it does take like for some people, maybe 3 episodes to go like, okay, I see what the show is overall. It's not just the fun penguin sledding and, the airbender boy rolling around on a ball of air. There's more to it than that. And there's a very deep story there.
Yeah. What was
Life can't all be about penguin sledding.
I haven't done this since I was a kid.
You still are a kid.
Can't it though? What was your second one from the same chapter? Because I know, and this will help fill us out for that chapter. Anybody?
Who do you want to go? Oh.
No, it doesn't matter. You go, Pat, since you started.
All right, I will go. So my second episode was The Blue Spirit. I'll do the synopsis real quick.
Yeah.
We're going with Aang, right? I don't have to say Ong, asshole.
Yeah, we can do Aang.
Aang.
Just back away. Really slow.
Aang!
Must
I've been saying
travel.
Aang, and it didn't feel right when I said Ong, sadly.
No, because it's wrong.
Rang or
Aang must
wrong?
travel to an herbalist.
I
Two
can't
Ongs
help
don't make an
myself.
Aang. Aang must travel to an herbalist to retrieve a cure for the ill, Sokka and Katara. While returning to his friends, he is attacked and captured by the Yuyan archers, sent after him by the newly promoted Admiral Zhao. A mysterious masked swordsman, the Blue Spirit, assists Aang in escaping his imprisonment.
Who are you? What's going on? Are you here to rescue me? I'll take that as a yes.
So I really enjoy this episode because for a couple different reasons. One, you get a little of it early, and by the way, this is episode 13 of season 1. So you've had some sprinkles of Zuko up to that point. Like he's the bad guy. He's positioned as the bad guy. And this is one of the episodes where you really start to see his development in hindsight. Because spoiler alert, turns out Zuko is the Blue Spirit.
What?
Honey! Wow! Are you kidding
Really?
me? You just ruin it every time. I'll see you at home.
Well, wait a second.
Rude!
Now, how would you not know that that was taking place?
Damn it, Pat.
Sorry about that. I said spoiler alert. You can pause. Shit. We'll put a timestamp on. It's fine. But it shows that he is a character that is not just going to be a one-dimensional, like, yeah, I'm upset because my dad doesn't like me and I'm evil. Like, no.
Yeah,
there's going to be-
mustache twirling evil character.
Yeah, and he sounded a little like Skeletor.
A lot like Skeletor there.
And it once again goes back to, it shows that long-term planning. Like, hey, we have a story we want to tell. I look at things like the DC extended universe or Star Wars, at least the last trilogy, where it's, oh, we have a part of a story we may want to tell, but we really just want to make a movie in this universe, so let's kind of throw it out there. And there's not long-term planning involved to kind of put the seeds of where they want to go. You know, for better or worse, Marvel is very good at that. Sometimes they're ham-fisted with it. Sometimes it's all relegated to an after-credit scene, but they at least put that thought in there. And if you're going to build out something like this, if the plan is to continue the story beyond what you are currently doing, you do kind of have to think that through. I will also say, to me, it showed me that they were comfortable sticking to their guns with the story they were telling, as opposed to like, well, we need to have an out in case it gets canceled.
Yeah.
So
totally agree. Good.
It's interesting too, if you listen to, there's a podcast out there from Nickelodeon, and it's hosted by the voice actor for Zuko, Dante Bosco, as well as Janet Varney, the voice actress for the titular character of the second series.
Korra, yeah.
Korra. And they actually speak of how in the first inception of the story, when they were building it, it wasn't that Zuko was going to be redeemed. That wasn't in their very first draft. That wasn't from the get-go. They're like, wait till we get to this part because he's gonna be redeemed. But they also, like, to speaking to, like, they had plans, but they also saw where the story was taking them and where the characters were evolving and moving. And so that's more good storytelling and more knowing to kind of give everything space to grow if it needs it. And so that was another really good moment of like, oh, okay, you can see how a writer can be like, oh, maybe I had plans to go another way, but this seems more organic, or it feels like a better growth path for the character, and they went with it, and I appreciate that.
I did not know that it wasn't initially planned, and that actually makes it more interesting, because that means it doesn't, like you said, it feels like a much more natural progression than like, oh, this character got popular, flip it and make him a good guy, done and done, like the old comic book, like, well, Sabretooth's big, better make him an X-Man. He's murdered so many people. He forgot.
Venom has literally eaten people's brains. Let's give him a movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Could we
No.
make him the hero of one of the largest crossover events in Marvel this year? Sounds great. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's get on that, guys.
Run it. Money.
But I will also say, Ken, being a Spider-Man fan, you have a very anti-Venom stance. So
I appreciate Venom in small doses and in like the roles that I think are key for him. I'm also not the person who's going to be picking up every issue of, separation anxiety, funeral pyre, and all those, because I'm just like, no, I'm good. Like, he was great in certain stories and he was great in like Maximum Carnage, but I'm not
Such a good story.
But then again, I do also recognize too that there were great stories later on that I would have never really gotten to if I was like all of the Flash Thompson stuff has a lot of good moments. I should say there's a lot of good moments in the Flash Thompson stuff.
Yeah.
And Eddie Brock has his own story arc and he's come around, but there's definitely times where I'm like, I'm kind of good. Can we not have 5,000 symbiotes? Can we just get 2? It's the same kind of Kryptonian problem where it's like, once you have more that like, you're like, oh, look at here's an undiscovered Kryptonian. You're like, okay, there's Supergirl, and then here's his son, and then there's their dog, and then there's their horse and their cat. Like, okay,
there's a whole other planet over there that we missed.
Exactly. That's when we had this storyline, New Krypton, and
it's in a jar.
Yeah. So it gets to be that was one thing I guess that was kind of nice about, at least we never stumbled upon like, oh, there's that one last Airbender who's also out there. Like, no, that made the stakes higher because they stuck to that. Because like, no, like Fire Lord Ozai is an a-hole and he did atrocious things. He is not a redemption. Yeah, he's effective.
I mean, and I appreciate the segue because that leads me actually into mine. I'll take it for this one.
Oh, we gotta get Ken's. Hold on.
I will.
Yeah,
but this worked in my favor as far as Ken saying like, they left things as they were and then trying to switch it. And mine was episode 20 of book 1, which is the Siege of the North Part 2.
Goodbye, Sokka. I'll always be with you.
And the reason why I chose this one was because, as Ken was kind of alluding to, things in this universe kind of stay, they are what they are. Like, you don't, there's a character who dies in this. I don't know. I guess it's not a spoiler or whatever. But she ends up becoming part of the spirit world, and she doesn't come back. Like, she's a very beloved character in the, I guess, 4 episodes that you see her, and they kill her off, and she remains dead throughout the show. And it's to that point, like they didn't try and redeem some people, but they did have an idea of the one person and how they were going to kind of map out that one thing to kind of and as Pat says, it was natural. The reason why his redemption works is because you see all the things he has to go through in order to get after Aang that just don't make sense to him. And he has his uncle Zuko, sorry. And his uncle constantly pointing out why it doesn't make sense. He quietly just says like, oh, what you're doing doesn't make sense. And he's like, I got to do it because of this. And then, well, that doesn't make sense. I got to do it because of this. That doesn't make sense. And after a while, it's like, well, yeah, that really doesn't make sense. Why am I doing this?
Yeah. And that actually brings me to my second memorable episode from season 1, which was the Siege of the North Part 2. And it's a great wrap up to the first season. The stuff where Aang is finally like later in the show, he gives into the Avatar state. He's like, no, like this, he feels the push from the spirits, and he's like, he needs to protect the Northern Water Tribe. Northern Water Tribe. Yeah, Northern Water Tribe. And all he's learned when he's been studying with Qatar, and they've had that story in the previous episode, which was really good. But then also all the stuff that happens with Sokka and his love interest, and how, and then at one point, jumping back to the Qatar of it all, that Zuko thinks that he can take her in the middle of like a snowstorm. It's like, no, You are completely out of your element. Like, this is the absolute worst time. And he's like, I've got you. And she's like, you really don't. Bam! And just like, just drops him. That's great. But also, it showed his resourcefulness, like him stealing the Avatar and using his fire breath to keep him alive. Like, everyone just is like firing all cylinders here. I mean, even though Zuko's doing bad things, he's still doing them very well. And you're like, he's, aside from trying to start a fight in a snowstorm, he was doing good.
So I think part of that, when we're looking at Zuko's natural progression, is because he's relatable and that he's looking for his dad's acceptance. Like, all of this is based on him just wanting his dad to love him, which is a very, for a lot of people, that kind of like desire to have that parental stamp of approval is very easy to connect to.
Yeah, he's a Robbie Keane, if you will.
Very much so.
I do have a question about that episode, though, and I cannot remember her name off the top of my head.
Yue?
Princess Yue?
Princess Yue. Was she fridged?
For who?
So since she sacrificed herself, it's a little bit less.
Okay.
But I do see where that can come into play, and I can see that idea. I think that she is given the agency of making that choice herself, that could negate it a bit. But she is, in that conceit, though, she is a character created essentially solely to play that role and then be taken from us. So one thing that I personally always have troubles with that term, because one, it connects to Kyle Rayner, and I really like that Green Lantern, but it's times where people find a certain, like, they find a term and they throw it out there, like, oh, that character's a Mary Sue, or that character got this, and it's like, okay, well, let's actually, if we look at what these ideas are, is that 100%? Are there shades of that? Yes, I'll agree with that. There are definitely shades of fridging in this case.
Okay, but I thank you, because that helps me square that circle a little bit, as it were, because I never felt that she was actually fridged, but I think you're right. It's because of the agency that she has. She's making the choice to do so. It does help with the character development of Aang and Sokka, but it's not at the entire expense of her. She still, like you said, has agency and is making a decision to do something, not just to further their stories.
Yeah.
Well,
and
I
can see if I'm sorry. I was gonna say, I can see if someone wants to make the argument that it's 100%. If they can, that's totally valid. Their opinions are there, but I don't think that it's 100% of that case, and that's just my take. As a cis male, I definitely, obviously, this point, my point of view on that can definitely be taken with a certain grain of salt.
No, I think we're all in the same boat, all three of us being males discussing this. But I also, like you, kind of see it in shades, because what she doesn't necessarily change the trajectory of either of those characters' like mission, their goal. Like, it wasn't like they started off like, I am, lone farmer, and she ends up getting fridged, and now they're on a mission to stop this. They met her on this plan, and what she chooses to do, Aang had already been in the Avatar state a few times actually at this point. It wasn't like something he didn't know that he could do. He just hadn't done it to that extent. And the same thing for Sokka. Like, he doesn't make a ton of decisions beyond after her passing that change his overall character. Like, he was always going to be, he always wanted to be an honorable warrior. He kind of wanted to respect a bunch of things in the show, and I think he does harken back to her often throughout the rest of the show, but it isn't like
it doesn't
he had a
define
fundamental
him.
changing.
Yeah. He was an established character before it happened.
Yeah.
This just adds additional context to his character.
Well, and her death is not defined by him. And
Exactly.
I think that is like for the Kyle Rayner example, like, I can't remember his girlfriend's name, but her entire existence and her death is defined by Kyle Rayner. It is just a plot point to move that forward.
Yeah.
She, Princess Yue, has there is a rationale behind her death. Like you said, there's agency involved. I think I'm just repeating myself over and over, just stealing your point. So I'm going to stop now.
Well, yeah. I want to take. Go ahead, Ken.
I was gonna say also too, because it also does in the writing of the character, and this is more of an analytical sense. Her character is tied to that moment from her birth as well. So
True. Yes.
that is there is a certain amount of symmetry there, and which is part of that story. And so there is, I don't know. I think by giving the character by making it a richer character, you do take away from that. You take away from the full being a full-fledged fridging scenario. But that again, take it with a grain of salt.
I want to take a quick break just to kind of backtrack over the powers. I think this is something that we've glossed over as we picked our episodes, and kind of, I don't think I've shown enough appreciation for just the creativity of introducing, bending in general as a concept. This is one of the first shows that I felt mixed not only martial arts, but the creativity of using abilities and powers and exploring the extent of those. So, we have Katara, who comes to the Northern tribe to, learn waterbending and the kind of extent of it. And you mentioned Sokka trying to take her on in a snowstorm. It's like, you get to see the gravity of these characters learning their elements, learning their styles, and kind of becoming one with the elements, or at least, using them to their full advantage. And that was, something that the show does very well.
It's not Dragon Ball. There's not, there are limits, there is strategy to the powers, which help ground it in the reality of the universe that's created, as opposed to just, well, I'm just going to have to power up another level.
Yeah.
Shit. Super Saiyan Rose now. Who cares, man?
I guess we're going to do it in 300 times gravity today. Well,
yeah.
Well,
power level's over 9,000. Duh.
Well, and this is also one of the things, and I don't know if I think I'd seen this on a YouTube channel where they do a side by side of, and we mentioned this earlier, between the M. Night Shyamalan version of this part of the story of the Northern Tribe training, and what they do in the show, and how the movie just fails it completely. And the show, like I said, kind of explores the extent of how hard that training can be to, master turning, water into vapor, into all the other elements, solidifying it, and how dangerous it can be. Up until this point, we didn't really see Katara do very much with it, other than slap some people around and kind of throw big waves at people. But once she gets to the Northern tribe, she starts, learn that she can, she can create giant walls, she can, turn it into blades, and it's a really cool kind of thing that we continue to see throughout the show.
She could do what a lady's supposed to and use it for healing and let the men fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the part of that is too, is the idea of adapting it to more creative ways as time goes on. And there is an upping of the ante and a power creep, but it's not to levels where it's it feels out of the reach of reality. There's not a separation there where you're wait, so you did this, and only that final battle with Aang and the ships and stuff, he's only able to take it to that level because he is the Avatar. They're not subsuming all the ships all at once. Or when they make waves at the beginning in certain stuff, it is multiple waterbenders working together in unison to create those waves. So there is a certain rational limit where it's okay, I see that, and you can get creative and try new things, as they do throughout the series, and especially within Korra, they take that to to the nth degree, and they're oh wait, how about this? Let's try this twist on that, and you find another way to oh, I didn't even think about this format. Let's go there.
Well, yeah, that was without kind of exploring that fully, because we'll get into an episode on that. That was one of the things that I was hoping that people would have reached out to for this show when they kind of create a new concept of Magneto, if the MCU does it, because I love the way that they did metal bending and Legend of Korra, and just that concept alone, I felt like we've never really seen Magneto do anything to that extent. He's kind of waved his hand and moved things all at once, but to be as precise as God, I forget the name of the character.
Toph?
No. In Legend of Korra, the last villain. Drawing a blank. I apologize.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm drawing a blank too, and that makes for great podcasting.
She's voiced by Zelda Williams.
Kuvira?
Which is awesome. Yes, Kuvira.
Okay.
the precision that Kavira has with metal bending. I'm like, no one's really, at least not on paper in the comic or in any type of animation, had Magneto done that. And I'm like, this is what I meant about like how good they are with exploring the elements.
I think in the comic they've done that, but they've also done like, it becomes, Magneto tends to become like, well, now he controls the north and south poles of magnetism and flips them, and the world explodes. And
well,
that's
a Superman thing where he's like, I can fly backwards and reverse time. Like that's a little.
And I agree that if you're looking at a way to portray mutant powers in general in the MCU, looking at Avatar the Last Airbender and how they handle bending is a really good place to start. It's weird to say it's grounded in reality, but it is grounded in the reality of the show and isn't just, like you said, well, Aang just froze the ocean. That'll stop the ship.
For us today, okay, I don't know, whatever it is, it's not right on the teleprompter. I don't know what that is. I've never seen that.
No, there it is. We are going to do Sting, yeah.
Okay, but now I can't read it. There's no words on it.
Okay. Ready? Sure.
There's no words there. To play us out. What does that mean? To play us out.
Sting is going to do. It's a video. Sting video. Okay.
What is
for credits?
I don't know what that means. To play us out. What does that mean? To end the show?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, go.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it.
Okay. In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with a. I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks. That's tomorrow, and that is it for us.